the fact that like there are people that we have hired on crew that I will not hire again. And they are really good at what they do. But they come off as if it's just a paycheck. And it's not a passion.
Welcome back to another episode of the Rough Cut Club. I am your host. You already know who it is. It's your boy Joey Nicotra here in the studio with this guy, this cool cat, Mr. Shane Reitzammer. Shane, welcome to the podcast, man. It's been a little bit since we've done one, bro, but it's good to be back in the studio with you.
That might have been one of your best opens, so
Thank
we need
you.
to can that, put it in every show opener.
That
But yeah,
easy to please you, man, huh?
Yeah, easy to please, man.
There
No,
you go.
it has been a minute. I've had to figure out how to sit in this chair again the right way. Joey called me awkward already off camera.
We've had a lot of banter prior to this show, and it's been good.
But dude, the guest we have today, first time in the studio, Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell was a massive success today. I'm just kidding. It wasn't Colin Farrell.
Matt Brundige, dude, they could be twins, dude. Matt is a solid guy. Met him at my church, Providence, Frisco, and quickly found out that like he was like the film creative at the church. I kind of had to come in and be like, I do film too. But yeah, great dude. Had great conversations about different projects, and we had to get him on the show. And one of the things that I love is that he's got kind of his core group of people. I mean, he's worked with a ton of people in the industry, but he's got his core group of people that he works with. And one of the questions we talk about on the episode that we just did was about like what values like are you looking for?
Yeah.
Like how does the Shane find his Joey? You know,
Ooh, I like that. We're gonna have to make something with that.
And so Matt's got a lot of great answers on that that I totally relate to. And I think for freelancers out there looking for that collaboration aspect, like when you kind of get past that point, like he says, of being a predator, which is great, but you have to do all the roles. Once you get to a level where you focus on a few positions and you want to collaborate, he's got some great tips on how you find that person, what you should be looking for, or what he was looking for, and they might resonate with our listeners.
Yeah, something else that I thought was a really cool takeaway is when he talks about collaboration and how it applies to his film set, not having any ego amigos. That's
gotta be my t-shirt.
Yeah, that's going on a shirt for sure. But the man, it was a cool like just perspective that he has that I thought, you know, in some regards, like when you first hear it, can almost be like a controversial thing that applies to the industry. But I thought his perspective on how it plays out on his productions was really great. And really even too, just at the end of the episode, we dive into just like how creativity can be increased by limitations, which was, you know, something that was really cool to discuss, especially in how it applies to an international project that he did in Africa. And you know, when everything is not going according to plan, him still being able to pull creativity out of it and make a better final product at the end of it. So it was a really, really cool soundbite.
Roll with the punches and fill in the gaps.
Fill in the gaps. You'll know what we're talking about later in the episode.
Man, lastly, I just got to say, this was, you know, after the episode, we were talking with him, and he mentioned that he watched one of the podcast episodes, and we've been doing this for, you know, almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
And it's really great, you know, just to learn that other filmmakers are watching and consuming this, that these views on YouTube hopefully are real. So, you know, we appreciate it. And that he watched an episode and then he went and looked at the film that it was Cecilia Stevens episode.
Yeah.
And then he went and looked up that film and kind of learned about that film. So, it's great that, and maybe it's just because we invited him on the podcast, but we're going to say that he was a longtime listener.
Hey,
but,
he might be, though. That was an episode from a while back. So.
Yeah. So, we love doing this podcast, and hopefully it continues to bring stories of little pieces of advice and fun lessons learned for freelance filmmakers.
I love that, man. Yeah. Well, without further ado, let's dive into his episode and roll the tape. Matt Brundige, welcome to the show, brother. How are you doing today, man?
Very good, very good. Thanks for having me.
Dude, we're excited to have you, man. You have definitely become one of the higher level filmmakers in the DFW community. And me and Shane have your names got thrown around a couple of times at our office, and so I'm excited for the opportunity to finally connect in person and have you on the episode, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm very humbled to have all of that accreditation.
Joey's a great host hype guy, but yeah, man, Matt. I met Matt at Providence Frisco, the church we were attending at that time, and the kind of the story was like, oh yeah, there's two people. Actually, it was more than just us, but they were like, right. Yeah, it's Matt Brundige and Cinema Story, and then I met Christopher and John Seidel and stuff. I'm like, man, this church has a bunch of like creative companies, creative mindset people, but yeah, so Matt and I go way back, back. 2019 maybe.
Shane's ego felt threatened while he was at the church. He's like, "Who are these?"
No, dude, I was like, great. This church already has prime video talent, so I guess going to a different church. I'm just kidding. Love Providence Frisco. Shout out. Before we start, I got to ask this: do you ever get that you look like Colin Farrell?
A lot, yeah.
Number one celeb look like?
It's such a nice compliment. We were on set the other day, and someone mentioned that as well, the hair and makeup artist. I was like, thank you.
Nice.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. You could be like stunt double, stand-in. Yeah. I was looking at some of your LinkedIn stuff. I was like, what is it? Who does he remind me of? And then I Googled Colin Farrell. I was like, that's it. Pulled them right up awesome. Next to each other.
That's funny.
So, that's my icebreaker. I had to throw that in there.
Thank you.
That's awesome, man.
I'll store that in my little ego bucket.
Now that we gassed them up, let's get to the good stuff.
Right, dude, man. So for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about how you got into the film industry and what you're doing today. Here in the city, man.
Sure. Man, the origin story goes back to 8th grade. That's kind of when the bug bit me or God just turned my head in the right direction, I guess. I'll try to make it super short because it's kind of like you look back and you see where you are today and how you got there, and it's a path that you could never actually ever plan for yourself, right? So 8th grade, we read Animal Farm. And our classes decided to do this big election, a cow versus goat campaign. And so all different kids had different jobs, and I got placed on the newspaper staff, and I was like, I don't like to write. So I don't know what it was, but I was like, I just approached the teacher and was like, can I just shoot some campaign videos? And I don't know why I asked. I just knew I have a video camera at home that my parents have, a VHS recorder, I'll just run around and shoot video. Never done anything like it before. And she said yes. And so it was great because I just kind of had free hall passes to run around and shoot things and interview the principal and the assistant principal and coaches and lunch ladies and asking them which they prefer, cow or goat, and I don't know, just captured a bunch of content. And then I didn't know what to do with all of that. And got hooked up with this guy at the church we were attending, and he offered to spend a whole Saturday with me at the church's equipment, which is the old school linear A/B roll. And so I got to sit there with him and watch him work this magic and ask me my thoughts. And I had, my CD binder, and I could put whatever music I wanted, and I could put all these titles and use every transition possible. And then we finished, and I got to show it in front of my class, and the reactions I got from that video stirred something, opened something up in me that I was like, that is cool. Like, I enjoyed the process, and all these people were so moved in different ways. They were laughing at places, they were booing in places, and they were getting into something that I created, and I was moving people through this creation. And it hit me hard. And so from that day forward, I was always having a video camera in my hands. My parents were super awesome in the fact that they would not just go out and buy me everything I wanted. Somehow they knew nothing about the industry, but they gave me just enough to play with. And then once I started hitting my head, they'd give me there would be a little bit more, a little upgrade. And that was, getting into nonlinear editing with, I think it was like Edit DV back in the day. And then had 2 VHS decks that was plugged in that, man, it was great. So did all that, got into high school, my sophomore year, started an academy for media arts and technology. And so I started learning college level film classes in high school. I got hired by the Carrollton Police Department to start producing these Shattered Dreams projects, which were these big productions to convince kids not to drink and drive, at prom. And just started doing like wedding videos in high school and all these different things. And then doing all these side short films with buddies. I couldn't make and create enough. It just had to keep going. I tried a year at Abilene Christian University, and it did not work out for me very well. I was having a hard time understanding why I was having to take health class again in college. And so I just failed really hard at traditional school. And I went there because Bonnie Curtis graduated there, who's executive producer with Steven Spielberg. And that's what they sold me on. But I had more technology in my dorm room than the whole campus had. Wow. And I was still like going out to the woods and grabbing people from my dorm and making my own things just to create things. So I came back and started working right up the road with Fossil, made videos for them, helped them. When I started working with them, they were just about to roll out their clothing line. So I got to help produce their first 3 jeans commercials that like aired on MTV. And then I went to film school in Florida.
Which school in Florida was it?
Full Sail.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
So when I went, they only offered an associate's degree.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad, because it's 13 intense months. You were a new graduating class was starting every month. You would start 1 or 2 classes and finish them every month. And it was 50, 60 hours a day. I mean, there was one month we had classes from 1 in the morning to 4 in the morning. You'd have like a 4-hour break, and then you'd go back in. And it was just super intense. And it was the first time I ever had straight A's and perfect attendance.
Wow.
Because it's what I wanted to do. It wasn't health class in college. So awesome. Did that, and then tried to find some. I met my wife there. She's an audio engineer, and got a great experience. I don't know if it helped me so much on the job front. We can get in that if we want to, but I think resumes are dumb to try to get work, right?
Especially
people just want to see
industry.
demo reels,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Show me what you can do.
Yep.
So from there, I got a job at Real Effects Creative, kind of working in their tape op room, and then went from there to National Geographic. They were partnered with a company called Lindblad Expeditions. So I had a 13-month contract. I'd go live on a boat somewhere for a month and film wildlife and ecotourism. And I'd create, a video every week that the ecotourists could like take home. And then at the end of my month stay, I'd be able to like archive that stuff and send it off so they could have it to use for I don't know what. But yeah, I got to spend lots of time in the Galapagos and Southeast Alaska and all over and around the Baja Peninsula, and got to really learn how to shoot wildlife photography, which is a completely different beast than, what I was used to. And then I went to go work for Bluefish, which is now Right Now. Got to work for them for a little bit. Then the whole economic downturn happened. Didn't survive that. Then I went to work at Pursuant, where I got to learn how to work with nonprofits and do fundraising campaigns and higher education, that kind of stuff. A lot of testimonial-driven work. And then through there, I met a group of people and just we ended up creating our own company, and that bled off into Brundige Creative, and that was not a short explanation. I am sorry.
No, man, what a journey though.
I am sorry.
And the Nat Geo, I'm just sitting over here drooling at that. Your resume that you just spoke, your experience, your reel that you did.
Yeah, he's like, resumes are dumb, and then he just gives us the best one of all time.
The form of story, it was great.
Yeah.
My question is, can we see that? We got to see that campaign video,
the animal
original
farm,
VHS.
Yeah. I have it on VHS. I need to get that transferred before it dies.
Put it on YouTube, man.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Our first stuff always is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. I love it's always interesting hearing people's backstories about how they got into film, because they're all different, right? Nobody is just got this innate desire. It kind of falls in everybody's lap a lot of times. And so it's cool to hear how you moved to class, and then that's how the journey began. And so it's always just cool to hear other people's story, man.
I don't know. I feel like mine was innate. I wanted to be a filmmaker from birth, out the womb.
No way.
Yeah. First thing.
You were actually filming earlier on than me, filming skateboarding and stuff like that, and
making short films and doll houses and
there you go. Yeah.
I probably would have done. I mean, I had my first camera at 11 years old, so I've been interested in it for a long time.
What
too.
camera?
Man, it was a Panasonic Handycam.
Okay.
I don't remember the letters that.
Sure. Was that the high 8 tape?
It was the mini DVDs. So,
he just showed his age. You showed your age when you talked about VHS.
Yeah.
And so, I was the high 8. I did VHS as well.
Okay.
And then
I started on mini DV, so I did do tape at one point in time.
Okay.
But
tape squad.
I was in the tape squad, but the first camera that I owned was mini DVD. All my buddies had mini DV.
Because I think we went from mini DV to HDV to P2 cards. What was the mini DVDs?
So it was literally
like a mini disc.
It literally. Did you ever play GameCube? They're these discs. They look like CDs, but they're literally like the size of your palm.
Okay.
And they're just called mini DVDs. Wow. You can still buy them, I think, at like CVS and Walgreens and stuff like that.
Really?
They have one shelf, and it's you get.
No way.
Yeah, and so they. Anyway, you pop open the camcorder to the side.
Yeah.
Drop a disc in. Close it up. You got to format the disc, and then you can write to the disc.
Is the disc encased in a plastic? Is it like a mini disc?
It literally, it's just like it looks like a CD, except it's the size of your palm.
Okay.
And so that was my first camera.
How does that record fast enough to
I mean, dude, we were recording 360p back in the
day. Sure. That's crazy. I'm going to go look that up.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Man, I'm feeling really good right now that I'm putting y'all on the game about old technology. This is a moment we can clip this right here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, man, very cool. So let's dive into Brundige Creative, man.
Sure.
So that's where you're at today. You've got this production company. You said you met partners and whatnot. So is it a group of people that are we're going to just work under Matt's name, or
Sure. No. So when I was at Pursuant, 2.5 years, and that's kind of a theme in my full-time work career. I've never been at a company for more than 2.5 years, and we could also dive deeper into that conversation because I have theories. But when I was working at Pursuant, I met some great people that we just all kind of clicked. And this is the group that came together and were like, let's make a feature film, which was Between Notes. And we made this film. We all took all of our vacation days just to like sit down and make this film, super cheap, like super indie, like beg, borrow, steal indie. And it turned out great, for our first film. But we really all bonded even harder together on that. And so when we were no longer part of Pursuant, we kind of created our own production company called Boy from Mars Creative. And I think, there's a couple different things. We had ambitions, maybe a little too high, maybe too many people to start for a startup. And it was really my buddy Chris Grissom and I who remained at Boy from Mars Creative. And we decided to dissolve that. He created Christopher Grissom Pictures. I created Brundige Creative. He would kind of focus more on selling himself as a director. I kind of focus more on just being overall turnkey, kind of highlighting maybe more in the post-production world. And that way we could run our businesses the way that we wanted to run. But at the same time, we hired each other for 95% of our jobs. So I was being able to maintain my clients, and he's been able to maintain his clients, and then we just hired each other.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we've been doing that for a long time. And he actually just kind of blossomed out of Christopher Grissom Pictures and brought on a good friend of ours who was in that original Boy from Mars Creative, and Kent Rabelais. And they've kind of merged forces and created Wonder Road Films. And so, which is very inspiring, because now I've got this kind of seed that's been planted that I've just started working on over the past week about how to mold Brundige Creative into something else or completely start something else underneath Brundige Creative.
You're at your 2.5 year mark.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, time to change it up. But I've been able to produce a ton of great stuff through Brundige Creative. Just interact with some of the most amazing clients. So a lot of corporate work, a lot of nonprofit missions-based work, a lot of just fundraising and commercial work. Really diverse, I think, for a lot of production companies. Some production companies, they're really good in the commercial world and they stick there.
Any more campaign videos?
No campaign. I did do some politicals like 8 years ago or 12 years ago, and that was a weird world.
It is. We did just a couple, and it was years ago. I think it was pre-COVID, and I was like, this is totally different and interesting, and mixture of commercial and propaganda and storytelling. It's a different world there.
It takes some unique characters to thrive in there.
So I got a question. So with, I know you and Chris. Chris is awesome. We got to have Chris on the show too. He's a good dude. But you and Chris sound like the Shane and Joey combo. Like you found your dude. It's like when I need a director, it's Chris. And for me, like when I need a DP, it's Joey. And so what are some, why does that relationship, like I can think of some of the things that I like value in Joey as a DP, and that's why he's my go-to.
Please share all of them.
It won't take long, so I can do it now. But when you're talking about these, because I think it's hard for other freelancers to find that trust level and that collaboration level in an artist, because it is a dance between art and business, and like there's a lot of feelings and emotions and money involved in that. So can you kind of unpack like what makes a good relationship for a partner in freelance like Chris?
Yeah. Man, we're so blessed in the DFW Metroplex just to have a crazy talent pool.
Oh yeah.
I mean, everywhere you turn around, there's someone who's just killing it.
Yep.
In whatever it is. It could just be, production sound. But the guy's awesome, right? Or girl is awesome. Motion graphics, animation, DP, set design. Like there's just so many amazing people that not only are good at their craft, but they're passionate about it. And I'm going to get to the answer of your question, but I'm just leading up to the fact that like there are people that we have hired on crew that I will not hire again. And they are really good at what they do, but they come off as if it's just a paycheck and it's not a passion. And so one of the things that I pride about Brundige Creative is that it's so collaborative. Like, I don't care who you are. If you have an idea, throw it out there. Like, let's go. Like, there's no egos. I don't tolerate people thinking they're above other people. First and foremost comes the client, and the client is I want them super involved. They know their product, they know their information, they know their service better than anyone else. So they need to have a voice, and it's not me as a creative to tell them, you don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, all that to say, Chris is one of those guys early on who is super passionate and good at what he does, and you can always see is consistently growing in his craft and is eager to grow. It's not like we're going to get content and comfortable. And so with that kind of partnering up pretty early and working with each other, you develop this nonverbal language. You can like arrive at set and just start moving, and like we're talking to each other but not using words, and we're just like and we think the same way. So if like we see something or we hear something or we want to try something, we're both already kind of moving to adjust and try those things. So it's this kind of weird like symbiotic, nonverbal, creative collaboration that allows you to work really easy together. And then I would say beyond that, finding someone who kind of fills the gaps that you have, right? So I would say for the most of our relationship, even though we're both dealing with pre-production, he would lean heavily into pre-production and production, more so on the directorial side. And then I would lean more on production and post-production. So we have that overlap in the middle. We fill the gaps on each other's, I've been saying fill the gaps a lot. Probably need to not say that over and over again. But just a great, I think that's what you have to find. You have to be able to identify, hey, where am I not necessarily as gifted in this world? And you have to be completely honest with yourself and say, you know what, I kind of understand maybe all the different areas, but I can be honest with myself and say, I excel in this and this and this, and that's it. And I can understand all of this, and I can give advice, or I can make sure if I'm producing something that every part is getting what they need when they need it to be as efficient as possible. But being able to identify people who have the strengths in those areas where you might be weaker, and you fill those gaps.
Yeah. There's the gaps again.
Yeah. So I mean, and we also, we both love Jesus. And so we come at everything that we do from that foundation and framework. And so not to say that, there aren't times where there's maybe stress, or craziness or words shared that, are probably not productive. But it all falls down on, I think, that core kind of relationship of just we know that we're not that awesome, that we were gifted with some unique talents, and we're able to use that and put that to good work. And I think kind of having that behind everything that you do kind of sets a tone for your working relationship in everything that you do. So. So
Yeah, that's great.
That's
Shared
good.
shared values. I love the growth aspect. Like still hungry. I see a lot of that. And then the nonverbal communication, man. That's
Yeah, for
so
sure.
good.
Definitely relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
Most
Joe-
of the time we walk on set and it's like, don't talk to me. I got it. I'm on my way. Pictures coming up.
I still remember. I won't say what client we were working on, but it was one of the. I think I was producing and directing. You were DPing, and I knew like it was just we love the client, but there's just lack of like you can do so much to prep and prepare, and you're just not given the tools that you need on the day. And we were doing this video, and like 10th take on something that again I wasn't given all the tools, and even though I asked for the tools, and and Joey just looks at me and he's like, "You're okay. We're gonna make this," and like
Breathe.
yeah. And so that nonverbal, and I think too, what you didn't say, but you implied is that shared experience, right? Because like once you've gone through that many projects together, that's where the nonverbal comes in. That's where the hey, let's jump in and fix this. The shared values, it really plays into that too. It's like, well, I know what we would both do in this situation, so I can make that call. Man, it's great. I love how you unpacked all that, and I'm stealing some of those for when I do the story about Joey. So.
Yeah. Well, so you brought up something else that I thought was really interesting too, and I want to go back to the collaboration piece that you talked about, because you basically said like anyone with an idea is welcome to share it, and I'm curious, like, is there a line there? Because a lot of people feel actually the opposite, where it's like, hey, director, DP, producers, and like if you're not
above the line.
Yeah, and it's like if you are not in that sphere, like you're intruding on the creative, huddle, if you will. And I've seen it to where I've seen somebody overstep before. But I'm curious, like how you navigate creating an atmosphere on your productions where everybody's welcome to have ideas, but also limiting the a PA or an actor overstepping in terms of like where your creative vision or the team's creative vision is going.
Yeah. I mean, I think first and foremost, setting a stage and a tone for efficiency is like we're all going to get on the same page here. Here's what our day looks like. Here's the timing. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. Here's what we need from everybody. And so and we're going to stand by that. Now, obviously things happen and you get thrown curveballs, but at the end of the day, our most important responsibility is capturing the content that we need to capture. But like staying efficient with time, staying efficient with budget, staying efficient with just mental load, right? And I think that's a huge one that people get lost in. So if something comes up and there's a problem, you sit too long getting stressed out, anxious, or crazy about it, you're wasting your brain space to be able to figure out what the solution is. So like take a hit, be like, I don't want this to happen. Okay, how are we going to fix this? And you need to move on. So setting that as a tone. Now, we also like to always rehire people that we've worked with a lot. So having, relationships on crew and talent that you've worked with over and over again, they get the idea. But like, there are people who there's tact, right? We've definitely had PAs who are like aspiring DPs, right? And those people are so excited and so passionate, right? And it kind of becomes like a puppy jumping up at your leg, and you're like, we got to get this work done. Like, I hear you, But I don't see a lot of that. Like, if anything, we might be setting up a shot or trying to light, on location. And if a PA were to walk up and be like, hey, I was just noticing that water pitcher in the background, is that something that you like there? Or do you want, I've got this other thing over here in this room if you wanted something different, It's just a PA. That's not set deck, that's not our department. Like what? I'm like, yeah, I love that idea. Like fly it in. Let's just take a look at it. Like I I don't find myself to be the person who knows everything and can figure everything out and has all the answers and has all the best ideas. And I love the fact when people, if you set that intensity up front of like, here's our day, we're going to be efficient, everyone's on the same page, and everyone respects that. And you can always post up your own ideas or make suggestions or just pop in and help out, even though that might not be your role, because you've set those intentions up front. And so I like to think that doing that is the reason why my clients have so much fun on set. It becomes super enjoyable, and that is why they always come back. I don't market my business. I've tried, but a 1 out of like 75, reach outs to try to gain new business, everything has come via word of mouth or return business, or this client left this company and went to this company. And I think the reason for that and the success in that is because they're being able to feel a part of a cool, collaborative team. There's no ego amigos on set. There's no hierarchy. Obviously, everyone knows, like, hey, when the director's talking, shut up, listen, like, let's figure out what's going on. But that's the extent of it. Like, we know who's driving the show for the most part. But other than that, like, let's just hang out and like work hard and be happy and like interact and love on each other and have a healthy set.
And
I'm writing down Ego Amigos. That is my new favorite. In fact, I want T-shirts with that. That's great. Ego Amigos.
Yeah.
dude, that's great, man. Yeah, there's definitely a lot. Man, I love that just overall atmosphere that you present. And honestly, I think that the crews that you attract with that mentality, will pay off and create a better client experience, to your point. We've had people before that have contributed in that aspect, and if done with tact, like mentioned, they normally get rehired. You know what I mean?
For sure.
It's like you have a lot more value to contribute other than said role that you were hired for, and if done well, it creates that long-term relationship. And so it's cool to hear you break that down.
When you have a grip and you're setting up for a shot, and Video Village has just kind of like sort of been set up, monitors are up, and a client's standing there, and you notice out of the corner of your eye, because you're working on getting everything else set up, a grip just being like, oh, here, and goes and grabs a chair and is like offers it to the client. Hey, you want to sit down? Do you need anything? Water? I was going to go grab a water. That's not your job, man. But totally appreciate it because you just saw a need and you're so passionate about your job. Like, good job. This isn't just a paycheck for you. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And you've built that culture, and that's something we love too. One of our core pillars is like experience is everything. And so we believe that experience is everything for our clients, then our contractors that we hire too. That's why I started Cinema Story, because I got burned so many times on bad productions that I go, there's got to be a better way to treat people, like pay people on time, give them respect on set, and so, that referral. And I think it's relationships, man, that just drive that business. Like you said, very, very similar with like people leaving to go to different jobs and word of mouth referrals, And I think, Joey, I can't remember the saying that you always say, but people don't remember what you did for them, but they remember how you made them feel, right?
Yeah,
Something like that. I butchered it, but
No, you actually were pretty good. Just say it with confidence next time. You got it.
put my chest out. Hey, no ego amigos here.
That's
bro.
right. Man,
No,
that's cool.
but that's so I want to dive into something. We're talking about story and driving on set and the story, developing the set and the story in pre-production. I was watching some of your videos, and Gideon is something that stood out. Dude, awesome piece.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Gideon, and then I have some follow-up questions about just story and story building, because you were producer director on that.
Yeah.
correct? Okay, cool. Tell us about Gideon.
Producer,
What
director, DP.
everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One-man band.
Editor.
Yeah. Tell us about that
Everything, yeah.
project, what it
Sure.
is, just so viewers kind of get a picture of what that looked like.
Sure. So for the past 6-7 years, I've had a client called Heritage Christian College in Ghana, and right outside the main city of Accra. And that relationship started out as there's a U.S. foundation to help raise money for that college to kind of build the infrastructure they need, provide scholarships, the whole idea is to try to get this university built up to where they can host enough students to kind of cover the yearly costs of running the place. And so it really just started off as like testimonial videos, B-roll, and then an ask. And we did a lot of those, and a lot of super proud of those videos. This one, I just had this idea now that we had this relationship established, this idea of like, let's kind of do a little bit of a narrative of a certain student's story without having to sit there with a testimony and B-roll that we do. And they said, run with it. So we did. Kent Rabelais, who's working with Chris, he came on board and he wrote the piece. And then Chris and I are the ones who it's just Chris and I. We go to Ghana. It's been like almost once a year to shoot these things. And so we tried to do a lot of pre-production on that and email our friends at the university. Like, hey, okay, so here are our needs. We're going to need to find a lake. We need to find these boats, these fishing boats. We need a kid who can swim. We need a kid, an older version of this kid that's like in school. And then, here's our list of needs. And we probably sent that like 2 or 3 months before we showed up. Crickets, like just nothing. Which you think we would have known by now, but there's just a certain way some things are done, which is like, we'll talk about it when you get here, right? And so we show up, and one of my first things was like, do we have a lake? Do we have the fishing boat? Do we have the people who are going to be in this thing? And they're like, oh, we'll go find it. I'm like, okay. So we drove around one day by this body of water, this reservoir, just looking for random people sitting on the side with boats. And then we'd get out and talk to them about renting their boats and stuff like that. Anyways, found a place. And then we showed up, and they had a kid. And we showed up the very next morning early, before sunrise. We're going to get those beautiful shots on the lake and flying the drone. We got Chris is always on a wide angle with his gimbal, and then I run a long lens 7200, overcranked, ready to go. And we get there, and they're like, "Yeah, the kid's mom doesn't want him to do it." So they spent I felt like it was probably 2 hours, sun's coming up, and they're just walking from house to house asking if there's a kid who wants to come jump in the water. And it's not efficient, and it's not the way that we're used to doing things. But that was the situation that we're presented with. Eventually, we find a kid, we go out, we shoot, we get beautiful shots. I was able to get the drone up a little bit just to try to get some of that morning light, just for some landscapes. And then, we just kind of went around and got all of our shots with different things. We knew that we were going to show this kid. It's Gideon's story, which he was he wasn't child slave labor on Lake Volta. And it's a big problem there. And you don't really get out of it. You kind of slave labor fishing boats on this lake. And then typically when you get old enough, you become a master of other kids on the lake. And so he was rescued by an organization. It took him to this Village of Hope orphanage that is partnered with HCC. Board members for HCC are the leaders of that. And then did really well, and then went to the university, and he has all these, he's got a business degree, he has political aspirations, and it's just really cool story. Kent kind of grounded it all and bookended it with the force and the nature and the healing of water, right? It can be destructive or it can be healing. And so we kind of bookended the piece with that. One other quick thing. Gosh, I talk too much. I'm sorry.
Oh, this is great.
Sorry. While we were there, I was like, we're going to have all these different, Gideon plays himself as the older version, but we have two other kids at different ages. I'm like, how do we make sure the audience understands that this is the same person? And you would think we would have thought through that before we got there. But we were shooting some just random B-roll of the university before we went and did our first day of shooting on this piece. And I was like, I told Chris, what if we have at the very beginning, the kid picks up like this very distinct rock on the side of the lake, and he just keeps that with him his whole entire life. It's something kind of remember where he came from. And so wherever we show him throughout the piece, no matter who's playing him, there's that rock. He's like, oh, yeah. And so we kind of agreed, let's find like something like a white rock, which I don't think you would have found that on the side of the lake. But if you watch the piece, you know, you're able to kind of like identify, okay, this is the same character growing up. But yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for the long explanation. I talk forever.
It's beautiful, great message and story in it, and great storytelling. You know, and you actually answered a lot of my pre-production questions that I was going to talk about too, because you know we when you do these hero's journey, you know, with a call to action or big reveal ending at the end, right? You know, I assume this is for fundraising or for the college, right?
Yep.
And so or for the foundation, and so part of that, you know, pre-production, which you talked about, like you plan, right? And so, you know, well, I guess I'm curious too, you know, it sounds like another person wrote it, but the pre-production that you had to do, especially being that far apart. So was there like, you know, Zoom calls or like pages of story that the foundation sent you to then for you guys to be able to then craft the story that you wanted to tell? What did that process look like?
So it's one of those, and I see it with a lot of our clients for the most part, where we've done so much work with them. We understand the inner workings of like their needs, what they're pushing, what they're wanting to say, that there wasn't, we basically said, we have an idea, and they're like, great, let's see it. And then we kind of, you know, came up with this concept and this idea. And like I said, I love a good bookend and kind of having this relationship with water throughout. And then just presented it to the client and said, this is really awesome. We should do this. And the client was like, okay, cool.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
You got that trust with the client.
And that was it. That was it for pre-production. Like I said, you know, we would have loved to have done Zoom calls and email conversations about what we need. And but it just doesn't work that way. You get there and then you figure it out.
Yeah. I did
no matter how hard you try.
I did some filming in India, and it was very similar. It was I did three trips to India, and it was very much like, okay, what does it look like? What's the, you know, we need these locates, all that stuff. So it's very familiar. And I think doing that though makes you a more flexible filmmaker, because stuff like that happens on commercial sets. You know what I mean? Like we just did a project where, you know, we're just missing something that we thought we would have had secured. And then you're on set and you're solving those problems. And I think that is what can make a filmmaker great. And having that piece on set is hard, because it looks like, especially if you're in that director seat, right? Like, So my question for you is, what's your technique when everything's on fire around you? How do you keep your crew? And you've already said, like, you've started with a tone of excellence and keeping that environment. But
Sure.
what's your go-to tips to keep the peace on set when things start going upside down?
Sure. And I mean, I'll just like clarify, like, again, the majority of the time I don't allow. It's kind of unsaid. Chris is going to handle the directorial part of it. I've always defaulted to just be like, you excel in that area, I'll just oversee and produce. But I think a big thing is to be okay with anything that happens and not try to force anything that happens, right? You should plan, right? You should like have goals. You should say, this is the shot list. This is our schedule for the day, right? But just like, if something doesn't work or something that you plan to do, you're just not getting there, you got to pivot and you got to be okay with that. And you got to understand that, like, if you try to force things, you're going to hurt the morale of the crew. You're going to hurt the timing and the schedule of your shoot day. And that's not going to look very good in front of your clients. So it's being able to move and not force. No matter how much you thought like it was going to be awesome, it's not being awesome right now. And you've tried something and it's not working. So let's figure out another way to get it,
Yeah.
And you have to do that so many times and be able to kind of come in and realize you might have a position that has a little bit of control in your box, but you don't have control over every single thing that's going to happen. You just don't. And then if you can admit that, it's a lot easier to find solutions and work around things and like be okay with that. And honestly, I don't know about you guys, I'd say at least 75% of the time, things work out way better than initially thought. You're like, oh, we would have never have gotten there if this hadn't broken down or this hadn't,
100%.
just worked out the way we planned it. So
it's part of the beauty, I think, of filmmaking and being able to problem solve in a collaborative way. Like you said, there's only so much you can do, but then, I've huddled and be like, dude, okay, what are we going to do in this situation? Like, we got to figure out a creative way to still get this shot. And then and that's opening up that floor too, to have that collaboration.
I also think that having parameters increases creativity. And so like when you have limitations of your project, it pushes you into another space where you really have to stretch and grow and say, how can I do something extraordinarily creative and impactful with what I have? Rather than when you're thrown out with no limitations at all, and it's like, be creative, it's almost harder than if you don't have, for all intents and purposes, things going wrong or not going well. And so I think that, that's really a testimony to being a creative, is learning how to work under those circumstances and create when the sky is falling on your head.
And I love that. I will be honest, like the method of going, we got to go to India last February as well and shoot in that environment, and you can only plan so much. And a lot of international travel, it's kind of like that. Like you can plan like getting your equipment there and getting your carnets and like figuring out all that stuff to get there, and maybe have a contact here and there and give them a brief idea of what you want. But I love the idea of like, you step into a situation and like, it's like, okay, well, this is what we have to work within. And I'm like, great, let's do this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get more pumped up about that than like painting by number sometimes on set. It's like, okay, yep, got that, check, got that, check, got that. Yeah. I like the idea of like, oh, shoot. How are we going to get across the city right now?
Right. Well, and one of the most fun aspects, at least for me in being a DP, is the problem solving component of it. Like if there were never problems for me to solve and I was never challenged by my craft, I would probably not enjoy what I do as much. It's the fact that there's no budget on a certain job and you have to light and make it look good. Sign me up.
Yep.
Or, there's this horrific room and I have to get 4 different angles in here that look good. Shane. And
I'm sitting over here going, I'm like, man, this is great. I'm just gonna bring this episode up every time you kick back.
we're gonna cut
You
this.
said you loved it.
You said you like. I'm gonna push your camera over next time, break the lens, be like, figure it out. You're gonna be super creative today.
Those are the type of things though that when you leave and go home are what bring you fulfillment though. It's the I overcame the problem and I solved the puzzle and it looked awesome, better than I was expecting. Thus, fulfillment is attained. You know what I mean? So
for sure.
Yeah.
It's part of the fulfillment loop, if you will, of being a creative is overcoming.
But I think that's again, what I see just in working with different quote unquote creatives. I think all of humankind are creatives. I think everyone has creativity and uses creativity every day, just in their own way. But in our industry, especially the people who are building story or are part of building story, we're drawn and we have this passion of wanting to put the puzzle together. Like if I start a puzzle, I have a hard time stepping away from the puzzle.
Yeah.
Like it's dark, there's no light. I'm still trying to find how those pieces will fit together. Like we just have this drive of figuring out how to put it all together and make it work. And it's just when you start thinking, we're missing a puzzle piece. Like it's great. I just spent all this time on putting this puzzle together and missing a puzzle piece. And then out of nowhere, like that puzzle piece pops up and you're able to put it in, how satisfying that feeling is. Because we want to complete something that it's rewarding for the work that you're putting in. It's rewarding for all those people who are going to be able to enjoy the work that you've done. But you couldn't conjure up that piece out of thin air, right? You had to go look for it and find it and fill that gap. See how I brought that back around? Filling gaps.
Filling in the gaps.
Yep.
We're going to entitle this episode "Filling in the Gaps" with Matt Brundige.
That's a different podcast.
Oh man, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, dude, we gotta bring this thing to an end. We're already coming up on an hour here.
Yeah.
So one of the things.
Sorry.
I feel like there's so many more stories that we might have to do a
Fill in the gaps part 2. Well, one of the things we like to do, we like to play a little game called where's it at? Pop a question.
Oh.
And we're moving into the 60-second speed round here. And so we're gonna put 60 seconds on the clock.
Noted.
The idea is that you pull from this popcorn bucket here.
Okay.
And you try to see how many questions you can get through in 60 seconds.
Okay.
They can be very short one-word answers or one-sentence answers.
Okay.
I think the record is what?
I think it's 11.
Is it 11? Okay.
it's 11.
See if you can beat it.
I'm gonna get 2 guys.
Okay.
I
Maybe
talk
so.
too much.
Here we go, and I'm starting the clock. And go.
There we go. Name a character you relate to. Yeah,
It's a tough one.
it's a tough one.
Pass.
Just pass it.
I want to be Indiana Jones.
There you go.
Okay. What's the best book on filmmaking you've read? Oh shoot, it was Robert Rodriguez.
Rebel Without a Crew.
There it is. Thank you. Okay. What's your guilty pleasure movie? Galaxy Quest?
It's a new one.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Who would win in a fight, James Bond or Jason Bourne? In the movie or in real life? Let's just say real life. Jason Bourne.
There you go.
Yeah. And then let's see. Who would win in a fight? Lots of fighting. John Wick or Neo in the Matrix? Matrix.
It's a good
Time's
answer.
up.
Good
Nice.
answer.
There you go.
Man, there you go. That's fun, man.
No, I'm like,
Two fighting
I know.
questions.
here's
crazy.
another one. Who would win in another fight? Wow. Cool.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Well, we got 3 questions we like to ask every
Yep.
guest before we wrap them out of here, man. My first question for you is, if you could go back in time, what is one thing that you would do differently in your filmmaking career?
I would not force things. I mean, that's a theme that I've just learned getting older and older is don't force things. Have goals, set goals, but don't force things to happen, because if it's meant to happen, it's going to work out. So trying to get to a certain area in my career, or thinking I'm going to be the youngest director to ever receive an Oscar. Well, that's a great goal. Sure. That's not the way it's panning out. You know what I mean? Like, have goals, but be willing to pivot and not force things through. Because if they're supposed to happen, they're going to happen.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
Love that
advice.
What is one piece of advice that you can give to filmmakers trying to grow in their craft or their business?
Don't force things.
Fill in the gaps.
I was thinking that. I was like, that one actually applies to both.
Yeah.
It's don't force things. Be honest with yourself and know what it is that you are really good at, and surround yourself with people that can fill the roles that you maybe have great knowledge about and you can have great communication with them about, but let them be the master of that craft, and let yourself be the master of the craft that you know that you're strongest in. So, you have these days a lot of people, and I get it. When you start, like, you are a predator, right? You're the producer, director, shooter, editor, everything, right? And that's great. You should do all those things. Everyone should edit. Go edit as many things as possible, because it's going to give you the understanding of what you need to do in pre-production and production to make things better and to elevate your work. But in doing your predator stuff early on, find out what it is that you're super passionate about, and where you want to learn and you want to grow and you think you're going to be able to like really hang your hat on, and then surround yourself with people to do the other stuff, to work with you on the other areas.
Man,
Super good.
Well said. Predator. That's good.
Predator.
That's good.
I know we need a little acronym for all the different roles that you do on set. Last question for you, brother. Who is one filmmaker who has inspired you or your work?
I don't have one filmmaker, because I would say the one filmmaker that I feel like 99% everyone would say, which is Spielberg, right?
You would be surprised.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we've.
I don't think anybody has said that yet. Christopher
No
Nolan.
way.
Christopher Nolan's been the number one.
Yep, Nolan's number
Well,
one.
I just have to go back to like, because there's so many inspirations now, that have been in the industry for a long time. But like early on as a kid and in my teen years, I mean, things as crazy as like Billy Bob Thornton directing Sling Blade. Like that was a huge impact to me. Like I love the ambience, and I love the subtleness, and I love the rich characters in that movie. And then you had like Aronofsky, and you had Requiem for a Dream, and that's how bizarre you can get. I love the idea of quick cross cutting, and there's so many of those, the Coen brothers, and that were super influential, I think, growing up early on. And you try to do that when you're really young, try to mimic people's styles. And I think it helps you kind of figure out your own style. So,
Yeah.
Sorry.
So good.
It's like asking what's your favorite movie. I will never be able to answer that question.
Top 5 right now.
Yeah.
Man, dude, that's great. No, I love it. I love hearing people's answers to the favorite filmmaker question, because you can tell a lot about where someone draws their inspiration from, and how it applies to their current work. And so it's cool to hear what, even just big picture, what some of your big influences have been.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Matt, man, thank you so much for coming on the show, dude. This has been a really fun episode, man. We got to fill in some of the gaps for some questions. And man, this is seriously, it's been great. We appreciate you coming by the studio, doing an episode in person, and sharing your knowledge and experience, man. For those that want to get in touch or have any questions, man, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
BrundigeCreative.com. Contact@BrundigeCreative.com is the best email. I love helping people, especially you're getting started in the business and you just have questions or thoughts or ideas. if you want to contact me through my business website and ask questions, I'm down for that. Like anything I can do to help, build up and hold up others.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for your time again, man. For those that are still listening, thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and we'll see you next time on the Rough Cut Club. And that's a wrap for today's episode. If you're still here, you're either obsessed with filmmaking or love hearing us talk, and honestly, we're cool with both. So thanks for tuning in and being a part of our Rough Cut community.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on our socials and subscribe so you never miss out on future content. And if you have a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It's kind of like giving us an Oscar, but helps us reach even more awesome listeners like you.
And remember to join our Patreon for an exclusive backstage pass to our community, discounts on club merch, and even more ways to get involved with the show. Lastly, if you have thoughts, questions, or ideas for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, stay curious
And keep creating.